So let's go back to the trial 1.0. Okay, we're now almost we're close to a week away from 2.0. It's crazy. And I want to talk about when Proctor was on the stand and when you sat and listened to that testimony, because we had no idea what was going to, like, we had no idea. It was a mouth-dropping moment. And when you're sitting there listening and David Yannetti pulls the text message up and starts talking about it. I think it was Yannetti that crossed. No, was it Jackson? It was Jackson that crossed him. Am I wrong? Am I right?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
These little details just kind of are hard to keep track of sometimes.
When he's on cross and they pull the text messages up and you start hearing this for the first time from a woman's perspective, what are you thinking?
I mean, my first reaction was I was appalled. I mean, because, police officers are held to a higher standard of conduct. You're supposed to have a higher level of integrity than the average citizen because you have a lot of power in your hands. And with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And, his wife's defense of he was stressed out, he was upset because a fellow officer was just killed. It's not an excuse because people who say that in moments of being stressed out, it's under the surface. They might just, the moments where they don't have as much of a filter, that's when you start to see people's true colors. Those are things that he's thinking in your head, like in his head. It reminds me of people who've seen lots of stories in the news of this happening where they're like a public figure or celebrity has a heated argument with somebody or they're, inebriated and then they start throwing out slurs and saying awful things. But it's like, you're just in a moment where you're lacking a filter. And now these are things that you're thinking in your head off the clock. When you're not, even if you're not speaking it out loud, you're still having those thoughts and it still speaks to your character. So to me, if somebody that I was close to started talking like that when they were stressed out, that would make me question their inner character.
Yeah.
So to me, it doesn't matter why he said it. It doesn't matter if it's not something he said on a daily basis. It's showing who he really is and what he really thinks.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it is that he is trained to handle situations like this, to handle that mental stress. That's why you go through the academy, you go through the psychological training, you go through the all of those classes to put yourself in position for this type of work. I mean, let's be honest here. Police officers see awful shit all day long. I mean, I couldn't imagine with the domestics that they see, the murders that they see, children being neglected. I mean, it's a tough job.
Yeah.
But you don't take that to text messages with your superiors and talk about a potential witness, a suspect, whoever it may be, someone in contact. And I kind of laugh about, well, he was under stress. But let's go back and think, what was one of the first things that came up when we heard during that testimony? What was he looking for?
Nudes.
Right. Nudes.
That was the first joke that he made. That was the first thing that came to his mind.
Yep. No nudes yet. So that tells me when these motherfuckers confiscate people's phones, what's the first thing that they're going to be looking at? What are they looking for?
Yep.
It's pretty disgusting behavior. I mean, it's beyond reprehensible. I mean, it's disgusting.
It's a violation of somebody's privacy and consent as well, especially if it's an intimate photo. Now you've crossed into, people need to give you consent for that type of stuff. So it's all around unacceptable, especially for somebody in power. It's just unacceptable to me.
And it's funny because Karen, in a lot of the most recent interviews, what did she say? This is about power.
Yep.
It's about power.
Yep.
It's not, it's not about money or greed or anything. It's about enforcing power and pushing power on top of people. And this is why I always continue to say this as well. And we've talked many times about this, is that, they need Karen Reed to go down for this because of all the nefarious shit that all the McAlberts are all involved with, but all of those police departments that are connected. And it starts with the Canton Police Department.
Yeah.
And they're all interconnected. Sandra Birchmore, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, and the list just goes on and
On and
on. Now it might be Brian Walsh. I mean, that fucking guy. I mean, I don't know. I think he fucking killed her. I think he killed her.
I do
and
too.
Now you have someone that's very problematic. That was the lead investigator, Mass State Police lead investigator, Michael Proctor, is on Brian Walsh's case. Now, what's that going to cause in his case? I mean, is the defense now going to use this? Probably, yeah. And we heard that in one of the last hearings a couple weeks ago. They talked about the Reed case, and they want to get the files from the Reed case. The guy might walk.
It's the whole thing is awful and messy, and Proctor brought it on himself. He didn't live up to the standards of a police officer, and this is the result. And I think it's a little embarrassing for anybody, especially a woman, to defend such disgusting behavior towards a woman, because, like I said, that is who he is under the surface.
Yeah.
And I have a job that is very stressful sometimes, but even on my worst days, you will not find me talking about the people I support in a derogatory manner, because that's not who I am as a person. And that's not the things that I say when I'm stressed out. I know how to healthily express my frustrations and my emotions. That's called emotional intelligence, and being a regulated person. And if you're not somebody who can regulate yourself and your reactions, you should not be in a power position.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary. He's got a badge and a gun. I mean, that's super scary.
Yep.
And I watch a channel that I love lately, and I've been just siphoning his content. I watch Long Island Auditor. His name is Sean, not that Sean, but a different Sean. And he goes and does First Amendment audits at town halls and police stations. And when these security guards or maybe a police officer will approach him, and he's like, "Look, I'm just expressing my First Amendment right. I can be in this publicly accessible place." And he goes, "The only difference that puts you in power right now, yes, I have a camera, but the thing that scares me is that you have a badge and a gun." And it's power, and it's very, very corrupt. But let me just take the super chat really quick, and then I want to talk about, how were you feeling when you heard, were you like in a mouth drop moment or what? Let me get this here. Mama J's, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. And again, if you want your question or answer or anything that you want to say in the chat today, to get it up to the top of the line, super chat us. We'll pull it up really quick and we'll go through this. So she says, "Fee Karen Reed." It's probably free Karen Reed. And it says, "The truth will prevail. The dominoes are starting to fall." And I completely agree. Let's go back to Proctor. So here you are, you're listening to the testimony, and now all these disgusting text messages come out about Karen, and you're sitting there as a woman in this. And I know Karen has said, like, it never really bothered me. It doesn't bother me. Did it bother you?
It bothered me. I would not feel good if somebody said those things about me and like made fun of my medical problems. Like I am glad that Karen has a thicker skin than that, I guess, because I would be appalled having text messages about me read out loud publicly like that. And as a woman, I was angry. I was angry for her, and I was disgusted. And there's just no excuse for that behavior. And if it was somebody that was close to me, I would not defend it. I would hold them accountable for that.
I think the good thing about all of this now, which is a positive in Karen's, I'm probably going to see a civil lawsuit here pretty soon, because he doesn't have qualified immunity anymore. He's no longer a trooper. And I'm sure that her civil attorneys, whoever picks this up, can say, let's start the lawsuit now, put something out there on the record, and now we can go after for slander, liabus. I mean, you've put out medical information out there, and we know that Massachusetts is very protective of HIPAA information. So why not? Let's see a lawsuit. And I'm sure it's probably getting fashioned. I would believe so.
I bet it is. I mean, Karen's already having people come at her with civil lawsuits. So
you got Nick Alberts.
She just doesn't have the time to focus on a different lawsuit right now. So